Monday night, Politico reported that it had received a copy of a Supreme Court draft opinion, suggesting that, at least initially, the Supreme Court is in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade, which would effectively return decisions on abortion rights to individual states instead of protecting them at a federal level. If this draft is an actual leaked document, it's very telling of how things will ultimately trend going forward in this nation. To quote the article, the draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision which guaranteed federal constitutional protections of abortion rights and a subsequent 1992 decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that largely maintained the right. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, Alito states. Speaking on Supreme Court Justice Alito. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, he writes in the document, labeled as the opinion of the court. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Continuing from the article, deliberations on controversial cases have in the past been fluid. Justices can and sometimes do change their votes as draft opinions circulate, and major decisions can be subject to multiple drafts and vote trading, sometimes until just days before a decision is unveiled. The court's holding will not be final until it is published, likely in the next 2 months. The immediate impact of the ruling as drafted in February would be to end a half-century guarantee of federal constitutional protection of abortion rights and allow each state to decide whether to restrict or ban abortion. It's unclear if there have been subsequent changes to the draft. Ending the quote from the article. So in short, the draft opinion would state that there is no constitutional right to abortion services and would allow individual states to more heavily regulate or outright ban the procedure. If the draft opinion carries through to the final decision, rest assured that things won't stop there. I want you to keep in mind that even if abortion rights are upheld this time, it won't stop states from continuing to bring case after case before the Supreme Court until the opinions contained in this draft finally win out. Remember that in the name of removing abortion rights and promoting quote-unquote state rights, Republican Senator Mike Braun recently said that it would be hypocritical for the Supreme Court to make decisions on things like abortion or interracial marriage, and that they should be left up to individual states. It's already clear that there are a number of states that are just fine preventing people from having rights that should be universal to all. I want to also remind you that the Supreme Court ruled in 1967 that laws against interracial marriages were unconstitutional. But Alabama, the state that I live in, then updated this in its state constitution until the year 2000. That amendment was literally the first thing that I had the chance to vote on in my adult life. Unfortunately, it was not something that was voted for unanimously by all. Only 59.49% of Alabamians voted in favor of removing the prohibition on interracial marriages from the state constitution. In the 2 decades since that vote, I've watched Alabama and many other states recycle the same arguments that they used against interracial marriage in their crusade against same-sex marriage. Seeing that, this type of narrow voting margin is far too small for me to be comfortable. This is especially true in a time when more and more conservative politicians are doing everything possible to restrict access to voting, including bolstering procedures to remove what they consider inactive voters from voter registration without prior notice. This is especially egregious considering that the right to vote is a guaranteed right, not something that should be considered on a use it or lose it basis. If given the opportunity, it's obvious that too many will be fine manipulating the system to allow them to roll back rights not only on bodily autonomy, but against blatantly discriminatory practices like restricting the right to marry based on sexuality or race, and far beyond. It has already been argued as a right of the states to define what marriage is, and would allow them to create separate types of marriage, with separate rights and restrictions surrounding them to prevent any marriage that they deem unworthy. Now, there are those who believe that removing federal protections and making abortion rights a state decision is a good thing as a way to remove abortion altogether, which, keep in mind, isn't possible. All that you would really be doing is removing the right and the ability to have safe abortion procedures. I want you to understand that removing abortion rights was never an end goal. It's only a way to wedge open the doorway to removing every right that offends conservatives who primarily tie their concerns back to one or another biblical interpretation as long as it fits their internal biases. It is not hyperbole to believe that they will work to dismantle the civil rights work of the last 80 years if given the opportunity, because that is literally what they are doing now. Every time I hear someone saying that they are against abortion because they care about the sanctity of life, I always wonder where exactly in that life they stop caring about it. Because they sure as hell don't care about making sure many of us have a life worth living. They are continuously attacking the rights that allow us to live our lives to the fullest, without remorse, and in the belief that they are doing the moral thing. Again, this is from a leaked Supreme Court opinion draft that has not been officially verified, but Politico does state that they have additional supporting documentation that supports the veracity of this. The entire situation has me extremely concerned. Of course, as you're listening to this, these are my thoughts, my opinions, my concerns, but I do know that they are shared by a great many people who are concerned about the loss of rights in America. Of course, these are my thoughts on the subject. Thoughts from a bookworm insane enough to believe that people should have the right to live their lives free from what is ultimately the intervention of religious zealots. Have a good night, and please be better to each other than some of these people are to us.